Okay, we have to talk about the season 2 update and something he said about ranked specifically that I think is important for people to really think about. And let's just jump right into what he has to say.
You all know that the score you earn per competitive match is determined by both the outcome and your individual performance.
I don't think people necessarily knew that, um, but I'll just let them keep going.
With the launch of Season 2.0, we will be increasing the weight of individual performances. The better you perform, the more points you will earn in victory, and the fewer points you will lose in defeat.
Okay, so when he says you are getting more based off of your individual performance and less for a loss, w- we don't know how individual performance uh, is measured. This is something that I don't necessarily like, but I understand also why it's there. I've talked about this in my past videos before. Like, if you are performing above average, the system figures out that you aren't supposed to be in that rank and tries to rush you through because of the fact that the system puts everyone down at the bottom ranks in bronze 3 or even at rank resets, like launches you down 9 divisions. That's a lot. So it tries to get you out of those ranks, those lower ranks as fast as possible because it understands that you don't belong there, right? Um, so this is for all the people saying like, "Oh, well, my alt account, I was receiving way more for wins and way less for losses, and so it proves inflation is real." No, it proves that the system knows that you don't belong there, right? So it knows that it doesn't want you there. This is not a inflation is real proof. This is a hey, the game picked up that you're smurfing. This is an anti-smurf, anti-alt account technique to get people out of the ranks because of the fact that they don't have placement matches, right? With the lack of placement matches, you need something in place to get players who don't belong in those lower ranks out of there faster. Uh, whether or not it's a perfect solution or whether or not people like it, it doesn't matter. Like this is their solution currently because they need to have something in place. And that being said, I don't necessarily agree with the idea of having a system based off of individual performance because in these games, it's hard to measure that uh, as a metric in which you can accurately calculate someone's impact on a game, right? Because KDA, healing numbers mitigation, that's not a great way to measure people's metric or measure people's contribution to the game or just straight damage numbers. Um, because there's so many other things that factor in. If it's just based off of wins, like average wins, win streaks, like stuff like that, like if you're winning on average more often than you're losing, then sure, I understand that. But if it's based off of like, KDA, I think that there's a problem there. That being said, to all of the players who are complaining about inflation, saying that that players receive more for wins and less for losses, so therefore everybody is inflated, that's not necessarily true. If it's based off your individual performance, not everyone is receiving the same, bonus that you are. And if you're complaining about inflation because you notice it on your account, you are the inflated player. That means you are benefiting from the system, which is determining that your individual impact in the game they see as greater than your teammates. So if you're sitting there complaining that your teammates suck and with a 50-50 win rate, you can still climb, well, it's saying that you, for some reason, are performing better. So it thinks that you don't deserve to be there, but you are directly benefiting from the system you're complaining about. Uh, so yeah, that to me is hilarious because the players who were always complaining about inflation in my games were always the ones that had like the worst positioning in the world. So I think that's funny. But the reason why I'm against a system like this is because of the fact that I do cheeky things to win. If you've watched my videos, you know I'll do things like, hey, tell my team, feed your butts off right now. Just feed so I can back cap and do it for free because they're not paying attention, right? This is not going to show up on a scoreboard, right? There's no way for the game to know that I did something like this, right? I also do cheeky things. Like this is a game from last night where I recognized that it was in overtime and I heard things footsteps, right? And I knew he was going to try and get to the point to try and stall for time. So I just stood in the very tight doorway I knew that was there. I knew that this was the shortest path from him to the point. So I just stood in the doorway and blocked him before Strange could portal. These are the cheeky things that I do to win games that cannot be measured on a scoreboard, right? So this is why I'm opposed to things like, talking about measuring your impact through stats alone, measuring your sort of direct contribution to the game based off of like what the game thinks that you contributed into a match. But also at the same time, I have seen players in comments and on Reddit and other places ask, why can it not be based off of individual performance? Well, you're about to get your wish, and I promise you, it's not going to be as great as you think because there's a lot of people who can farm stats that don't necessarily have the best strategic planning in mind, right? Uh, but yeah, to me, this is like once again, like the when we see the system that's in place, right? We have to understand that because of the fact that they start everyone at the bottom, and when rank resets happen, they shove everyone to the bottom, 9 divisions lower that we've learned. Uh, you need something in place to get players out of the ranks that they don't belong in. Because the alternative, we have to think of what the alternative is. Say it's not based off of individual performance. Say it's just based off of wins, like, or just like wins and losses. Everybody gets the same 25 for a win, 25 for a loss. It's what it is all the time, right? Well, then you have players who are, GM or Celestial, and now it takes them significantly longer to go through silver, gold, plat, diamond, right? This is going to ruin the experience of players even more than whatever supposed, perceived inflation there is now. That that is a worse system, right? That is undeniably a worse system. So what this will mean is that those Smurf accounts, that and alt accounts that people have encountered will ultimately be rushed through the system much faster. Will be rushed through the ranks much faster. So you will encounter fewer of them, right? And the sort of, I think, predicted consequence of that might be that there might be some people who are better at farming stats than others who will slip through the cracks, right? But they will ultimately hit a ceiling, right? There's a cap as to how far you can go just by doing that alone, and that might be sort of a con that you are willing to accept for the pro of the fact that there are going to be fewer Smurf accounts or alt accounts ruining your games, right? Um, Everything comes at a cost. In video games, it's not about what's possible. It's mostly just about like your what cost you're willing to spend, right? And that's how development sort of works. So this also might mean that if you feel that you perform better on average than the players that you're at, then you can climb through the ranks quicker because of the fact without having to rely on playing a lot more games, right? Like if you perform better on average than the people at your rank, but you don't have as much time to play, this will mean that you will be able to climb the ranks faster with less time. So that way the players who have more time to grind and more time to get those rank ups, you still have a way to catch up, right? Uh, Whether or not you like the system or agree with the system, it's entirely up to you. Like this, no rank system is perfect. It just is what it is. I just accept it for what it is. But I do think that I was right in predicting that there were hidden factors behind the scenes uh, that were adjusting for the differences in points that we were seeing, right? Uh, I predicted it was based off of rank and perceived win rates and your hidden MMR. Uh, it might have been based off of other individual stats measured in game, which that I might have been wrong about, but nonetheless, it was a system in place that was supposed to be getting players out of the ranks that they weren't supposed to be in quicker, right? And when you drop everyone down, you need a system like that. The other thing I wanted to briefly mention was the rank distribution. The rank distribution works about what I expect. The only thing here is I know people are going to look at like the platinum to diamond. Why is this different? Because this is when Chrono Shield runs out, right? So the players who climb through gold and into platinum, now the Chrono Shield can no longer help those players. So now it's like, okay, this is when you actually have to like steadily improve over time. And the people using Chrono Shield, uh, benefits mostly the low rank players like bronze to gold, and that Chrono Shield is there to help those players essentially receive their reward skin. And I am not about to gatekeep people away from that reward skin and say that they shouldn't, that there's something wrong with Chrono Shield. I think that Chrono Shield is fine because it helps give players a sort of a softer entry into ranked, and gives them something to shoot for. And I don't want to gatekeep them away from that reward. So I think that that is fine. And this difference here is not really all that important. Uh, the game really starts to change as you start to climb through these ranks, and you can the difference is noticeable, right? You can tell that players are slowly learning over time as to how to actually like understand and play the game and the mechanically get better. Uh, so yeah, this area is whatever. There still is a bell curve. There still is, rank distribution from what I expect. I think it's just mostly people are their perception of what they think ranked or of what they think grandmaster should be is higher in this game than it is in other games. Other games like Overwatch, it was like the top 2%, and in this game it's 11.2. Whether or not you think that that's right for calling a title grandmaster or not is irrelevant to me. You can change the name of it; it'd still be the same thing. There's still other higher ranks to shoot for. There still are personal goals. There are better players as you climb. There's nothing holding you back from getting these ranks except for you. So that's just something I wanted to include in there. But overall, I think I am excited for season two. I think there's a lot of cool stuff that I've seen, and one thing I want people to remember is that the Marvel Rivals team has been really good at addressing problems as they've come up, and that these live service games are iterations. Nothing is perfect, right? The even things that you do as a developer, you're going to put out there, and suddenly things are going to not go the way you thought that they would, right? Players are going to surprise you at every turn. They're going to find ways to break things that you didn't expect, and the point of it isn't to say like, is this game perfect right now? No, but as they iterate on it, hopefully in time things improve and only get better, right? And with each patch I've seen, steadily a lot of the things that have bothered me have been improved. When one of my earlier videos, I complained about the alt charge of the support alts was just too easy. They charged too quickly, and literally in the next patch, they nerfed the alt charge of a lot of those defensive alts. And earlier, I was complaining with my friends that the problem is that Loki's totems and Adam's soul bond really makes it just unfun to play against. And they mentioned in this video, oh, we're gonna look into Loki's totems and Adam's soul bond. Like every single problem that has been starting to pop up, they have found and addressed, and not just addressed, but actually given us good solutions to that feel fair, right? They're focused on making sure that the game feels fun and feels fair versus just making sure they attempt some sort of perfect balance. And that to me is the reason why I'm optimistic, but also accept that even though it's not a perfect system, nothing's going to be perfect. But at least as time goes on, they're constantly giving me good reasons to have faith in sort of this game's longevity and that it will just keep getting better, right? But yeah, I just want people to remain optimistic, not get so like caught up in these conspiracy theories or whatnot. Just focus on having fun, focus on improving, focus on learning, and yeah, have a little faith in this team that's released a brand new game. This is still only for a few months old. We have to give the devs time to sort of polish this product, and I believe that they will. But anyway, yeah, that's all I got left to say on this. Uh, season two is looking pretty good, and I'm excited to try some of the new heroes.